Armed with elite-level functional athleticism, high-level skill, plus intelligence and instincts, as well as competitive fire on the floor, Zion brings together every element you look for in a prospect into one tantalizing package. As covered in the previous video, Zion's floor value on the offensive end separates him from most of the prospects in the 2019 draft. But in the draft, it's the upside that we really care about, and Zion has an all-NBA type ceiling. This is Zion Williamson's offensive ceiling. Let's dive in. Some of Zion maximizing his potential is just a matter of degree of success. This is the case with just how often he gets to the rim and how efficient he finishes there. With a reported 6'10" wingspan, Zion lacks the length to extend at times over players of NBA size and length. While he shows ambidexterity, Zion mostly tries to get back to his left hand, even at times attacking right. But we've also seen him execute right-hand finishes to counter length at the rim. He also compensates with supreme quickness to gain separation. Zion also has the bounce and explosiveness to elevate over the top of contests, getting shots over NBA length at the apex of the defender's contest. Zion projects to be a sizable plus as a finisher. The question again is just how good and on how high a volume. Similar to finishing, free throw volume and success is a matter of degree. Getting to the line 8 times per 40 minutes, pace adjusted, at a 67% clip at the time of making this video, at least Zion doesn't shy away from the opportunity. In alignment with his driving and finishing volume and success is a special trait to Zion, his lateral explosiveness and nimble hop step move. We haven't seen a player with Zion's dimensions with this type of movement ability in recent history. This move is Zion's superpower, enabling him to quickly explode around defenders at high speeds like a jump cut from a running back, and find driving lane crevices in defenses to exploit. The fact Zion can win with lateral explosion and quickness on top of first step, run through strength, and over-the-top explosion gives him a full arsenal of moves and avenues to get to the basket, unlocking a unique finishing ceiling. As covered in the floor video, Zion's decision-making will be a key driver to unlocking his upside. While expectedly imperfect for an 18-year-old, Zion has a solid foundation to build on here. We've seen players like Julius Randle, who possessed a lower decision-making floor than Zion, put it together with experience in the league. And Randle, a player with a common role and skill association to Zion, is an interesting arc to entertain. As is the case with every player, remaining healthy, of course, is paramount to a player reaching his ceiling. Unlike most every other player, Zion playing at 285 pounds with the force he plays with and puts on his knees at his weight is something teams have to consider and monitor carefully. Zion might do well with playing at a lesser weight. With question mark shooters and true dynamic transition killers, smart NBA teams employ specific schemes to derail such players. And in Zion's case, it's worth exploring these potential schemes as they are significant to his utilization and upside. A common tactic to use against non-shooting threats, especially smaller perimeter players, is the Tony Allen treatment of putting a team's best help defender on a non-shooter and essentially disregarding that player to blow up the other team's offensive sets. This has proven to be an effective strategy, especially carried out by the Warriors. I don't think this tactic will curtail Zion much, however, as illustrated in the following comparative example. Earlier this season, Hawks coach Lloyd Pierce employed one of the most aggressive Tony Allen-type coverages we've seen in essentially not guarding Markelle Fultz and helping off Ben Simmons consistently, mostly to double Joel Embiid and muck up the lane. This tactic was much more effective on Fultz. Here, you can see Kent Bazemore on the near side, helping on the J.J. Redick drive and completely ignoring his man, Fultz, positioned on the weak side behind Trae Young. Bazemore is able to harass Redick into a drop-off and still recover to block Fultz's shot. This time, you again see Bazemore positioned in the lane to form a wall to stymie a Ben Simmons early offensive drive, disregarding Fultz in the weak side corner. Bazemore is able to easily recover to Fultz when the ball is reversed and proceeds to duck under 2 picks before ultimately blocking Fultz's shot. Fultz is a good athlete with obvious ball handling ability, but at 6'4", he's not an explosive dynamic leaper and lacks highly instinctive cutting awareness. Thus, as a non-shooter, the tactic was more effective on him. It was a much different result with Simmons. At 6'10", with plus explosiveness and high-level cutting awareness, Simmons capitalized on the Hawks scheme. Right when Simmons' man, Taurean Prince, starts to move to double Embiid in the post, Simmons immediately cuts to the rim and beats Trae Young to the basket. Young, or any smaller perimeter player, isn't disrupting Simmons with an advantage here anyway. There were other opportunities to exploit with Simmons in the game as a cutter, but the pass recognition wasn't there. Not guarding 99th percentile explosive finishers with cutting awareness who are bigger players is a much more trying expedition for defenses. Zion can find space to exploit off the ball or eat up open space, building up momentum on well-timed cuts, punishing defenses for disregarding him. With Zion's transition aptitude, he's likely to face a build-a-wall transition scheme in the league. This is an effective way to make a question mark shooter operate more in the half court and limit easy downhill transition opportunities. This tactic was best carried out by the Boston Celtics against Ben Simmons in the playoffs last year. Here, we can see Boston showing Simmons 2 bodies, with Horford tracking on his side and Marcus Smart leaving Robert Covington on the wing to ultimately strip Simmons. This was a prevailing theme in the second round series last year. We also see the Warriors unleash this scheme against Giannis earlier this season, consistently showing Giannis 2 or 3 bodies to discourage penetration. Zion will likely get this treatment, which could have ramifications on his ability to siphon off easy points in transition, especially in the playoffs. In the half court, one of the best schemes to combat big initiators is to guard them with a bigger player and sag off just far enough to limit the player's first step ability, but not too far to allow a player to build up a head of steam. Utilizing a bigger and stronger defender instead of a smaller player better enables the defender to absorb a shoulder drop or power drive in space and not get dislodged. Not many teams have an Al Horford type defender, strong enough to sustain blows on drives and nimble enough to keep pace. But odds are the best teams in the league moving forward will have someone like this. And there's a reason Boston signs and drafts players like Semi Ojeleye. This tactic is also seen in pick and roll play, either ducking under screens, switching big to big, or dropping to encourage the jump shot. We've even seen straight isolation plays with centers guarding players like Giannis, sagging off, using strength to stop penetration, and contesting with length. Zion is quicker than most of these players, and this may be where we see that lateral explosion come in with better spacing. But it's something to monitor if the jump shot doesn't come. As with almost every non-center in the NBA, Zion reaching his ceiling mostly centers around the jump shot. This component will likely be one of execution, meaning success rate, instead of gravity impact, as defenders will likely always pay more respect to Zion's driving than his shooting. Zion might enjoy more time and space to get shots off than most other perimeter players. He just has to execute at a reasonable clip to move towards the ceiling. Players often develop spot threes in the league, but not always. Simmons, as a test case, flashed ability in college, but has confidence issues. Zion is a more willing shooter, and there's definitely something to be said for that, but the process and results thus far have been suspect. I'm not going to get too much into mechanics here, but two things to monitor are his elbow alignment and whether his jump shot is segmented. The latter meaning if he brings the ball towards the top of his forehead while his hips are still moving downward and locked. He thus pauses at his set point, waiting to load his hips upward, and as a result causes a segmented release and loses the transfer of energy power his hips would have created if operating in concert with the ball moving upward. The overall process lacks fluidity as the ball comes out flat due to a flatter arm angle. If anything, you're betting on his good but not great touch and work ethic here. Zion will mostly get closed out on short with soft contests and could also just get the Draymond ignore treatment, but you can easily craft the image if that ever changes. The best offensive players in the league are usually initiators with the ball, and due to under and sag off defensive schemes, you can't get to the rim every time, rendering the ability to make shots off the dribble a paramount attribute to elite offensive players. The pull-up is the one shot most defenses can never fully take away, and that carries transcendent value. In conjunction with his post-up game and self-creation gravity there, LeBron developing a consistent pull-up made him unguardable, and he needed it. In the 2014 finals, the Spurs schemed to incentivize LeBron to settle for pull-ups. Here, you can see Popovich waving at Matt Bonner to back off LeBron on the switch to give LeBron a cushion to shoot. This wasn't just because it was Bonner on an island with LeBron. It was a consistent strategy, and even though Miami got run through in the series, LeBron was able to capitalize on these opportunities and has done so over the latter half of his career especially. Even the best big initiator finishers are going to have to shoot off the dribble at times, and the confidence to do so, along with the results, are crucial. Simmons showed flashes of emergency foul line pull-up shooting at LSU, and that shot was crucial to have as a last resort his rookie year, which has regressed this season. Pull-up shooting, requiring enhanced footwork, balance, and deceleration, is more difficult to develop than a spot-up shot. Zion has flashed here, including this high-level in-and-out dribble hopping into his shot. But we've only seen a handful of attempts this year, even though it bears mentioning that Zion had a capable pull-up from the foul line at lower levels. I think this foul line pull-up will be a viable option for Zion at the next level, pending efficiency. At the highest levels of play, it's difficult to rely on a pull-up mid-range shot. It's a valuable tool, especially as a last-ditch effort in the shot clock, to have in one's arsenal. But few are efficient enough shooters here in the Chris Paul and CJ McCollum mold to make it a consistent weapon in a good offense. The holy grail of all modern NBA skills is the pull-up three. For most elite pull-up three shooters, it's not just about the shot value itself, but the threat of the shot opening up passing opportunities and driving lanes. But in a lot of cases, it is mostly about the shot. As referenced before in the 2014 finals, the Spurs went under on most LeBron pick and rolls. This is the shot that took LeBron to the next level. This is the final piece that evades Giannis, who is currently 1 for 28 on pull-up threes this season at the time of making this video. And you can see how defenders sag off just enough to negate his long strides attacking and offer soft contests. It's also the piece that has always evaded Simmons, who, unlike Giannis, hasn't attempted to incorporate it yet. It's also a big reason why the Sixers went out and got Jimmy Butler to fill the role Fultz was drafted to, for you need at least one player who can initiate and shoot threes off the dribble on a winning team. In contrast, it's already a key cog in Luka's game, and when you add the step-back component, it's one that is almost impossible to take away. This shot is hard to develop, even more so with the step-back add-on. But Blake Griffin is an interesting test case here. Griffin didn't shoot at reasonably high volume from three until his 7th season, and didn't start shooting pull-up threes at volume until his 8th season. This year, in 27 games at the time of making this video, He's attempted 97 pull-up threes, behind only LeBron and Luka for forwards. He's making them at a 37% clip, higher than Luka. If Blake was allowed to shoot threes earlier on in his career, would he have developed quicker? Can we learn anything from Blake's arc, considering he has similar athleticism, coordination, and work ethic to Zion, and also started out with flawed mechanics? It's hard to say, but if he gets it, Zion has legitimate best player in the league upside, and I would probably say the favorite to be so out of the next generation of younger players. So where does this leave us with Zion's ceiling? Can he be a top 10 player in the league being a minus shooter? We've seen that avenue through finishing at an elite level on high volume, free throw attempts, passing prowess, and defense with Giannis, who is a top 7 player in a loaded top of the league. They aren't that similar, but if Zion can venture down a similar path, it's possible. Ben Simmons is a top 25 to 30 player, and Zion is a better finisher, scorer, and backline defender, while lacking Simmons' elite passing instincts and defensive perimeter movement skills. In truth, there isn't a great comparison here in the modern game, only approximation. Zion is virtually a wholly unique prospect, and I'd be lying if I said I knew exactly what his ceiling outcome looked like, but history can still serve as a valuable analysis tool. If Zion's finishing translates to an elite level and his decision-making is a plus, he's an elite NBA player if defense cooperates. If he develops as a shooter and, most importantly, a pull-up shot maker, he has generational best player in the league upside. That upside, when paired with his valuable floor, renders him one of the best prospects of the last decade plus, and someone you can't pass on in June. This has been Cole Zwicker of The Stepien. As always, check out the site. Until next time.